So that's an absolute beautiful way to just kick this whole thing off. So about to jump right into it. Hey, appreciate y'all brothers, man. I love y'all. That's what's up, right? All right, so we about to jump right into it. I would like to introduce our moderator, Miss Alexis Cuffy, who is the founder of Literary Vibes. Um, she is the founder of Literary Vibes, which is an organization dedicated to increasing literacy rates in low socioeconomic community in the Birmingham area through the use of poetry, public speaking, and fundraising from showcases featuring local artists and musicians. She is also a current junior at the University of Alabama studying political science and human resources. She travels across America hosting poetry slams in order to highlight the political commentary and the humanity that stems from crowding into a room, listen to a whole lot of different narratives. Introducing, y'all give it up for Alexis Combs.
As JP said, my name is Alexis Cumbie. I'm super excited. We have an amazing lineup of panelists that represent the different corners of artistic narratives that exist in Birmingham and Alabama and in the South. So I just want to allow everyone to introduce themselves. So we can start with you, Melvin.
Cool. Hey, my name is Melvin. I am a part of the creative collective here in Birmingham called The Kickback. That is my DJ in the corner. We host showcases, pop-up shops around Birmingham, just trying to give artists in our area a voice, more or less.
My name is Joshua. I'm 1/3 of the group from Birmingham called Club Monster, along with Jay Dada and Kel Rex, who aren't here today, but shout out to them. So we do music, hip hop around the city. So it's nice to be here today.
I'm Gwen Taylor. I am a member of Real Life Poets. I'm also an aspiring filmmaker and a poet, so that's great.
Good afternoon. My name is Yogi Dada. My real name is Yolanda, but most people know Yogi Dada. I am a visual artist as well as a djembe player of the African drum and a poet. And I consider myself a Dadaist in that I believe that art is whatever you believe in, so I believe in artistic freedom.
All right, are y'all ready to get started?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is, and this is for the panelists and for the conversation, there's gonna be a floating mic. It's gonna float around. So if you have something that you wanna say, just give, a quick raise of the hand. If we have time, I'll point on you. All right, so the first question, how has living in the South influenced your story as an artist?
Well, I can definitely say that as a youth, it's definitely different from how it might have been before, but growing up around a whole bunch of artists, it's definitely been different than what other people might have experienced, because I do have like a different outlook on life, just because I have been around poets and rappers and singers and painters. So it's definitely different, but when you look at the difference between the South and the North, you can see this. It's definitely a view of racial things going on, but also of like the culture and food, all of that stuff. It plays a part in how you are as an artist and a person in general.
I'm not an artist per se, but just being from the South, it shows me that there are more than just one way to tell a story, and it's a more than one way to get that story out. So I guess just being a fan of like Southern artists, like the people who I first listened to, like Outkast, Ludacris, just seeing how they voiced their story, their upbringing and stuff was really cool to see. So I'm a fan of seeing that going forward with even local acts to, I guess, mainstream artists. So.
I think for me, I guess kind of like being in the 30 range, mid 30 range, being able to kind of know the past and then forging to the future. Just, especially like being in Birmingham, knowing our past, from civil rights era, and then knowing, where you want to be, especially as a Black man, that kind of has shaped creativity for me, shaped like the raps and the art. And then, the South, this is a Bible belt, so it's, very religious. So for me, a lot of that shaped, my perspective and, my thoughts on, even from music to just everyday living, So it's a cool mixture, being from the South.
Right. And that's an interesting point. Being from Birmingham, I think we all have an expectation of the activism that came before us. And I think as artists, sometimes we feel a responsibility to echo that. I know, especially for me, being born in Alabama and being raised here, all I know is the South. So, all I know is sweet tea and all I know is poetry. And from that, I think you merge the two in your activism and just figure out a way how to explain your narrative in the position that you have it, which is in the South. And sometimes that can be hard. And that leads into my next question. So as Black artists, what responsibility do we have to tell the full stories ourselves?
I don't like to wear labels as an artist. I consider it for me a representation. I'm an artist who happens to be Black, who happens to be a woman, but there is a responsibility. And I don't think we can have a discussion, the narrative of being an artist in Alabama without this, considering race and how that plays into it. So as a Black artist, my goal, my passion is to always try to make an easier way for those coming behind me and to keep those doors of communication open with other artists who are not Black, who are open to building together.
Sometimes I feel like it's more or less an expectation than it is a responsibility, especially as a poet, because I know when I get up on the stage, a lot of people are expecting you to talk about race and things that go on in the South. And so sometimes I feel like it's something that I have to do, not that I want to do. So I feel like there's always that little chip on your shoulder of like, okay, you have to do this because you are Black and you are an artist, so you have to be that activist for everybody. So it is an expectation more or less than a responsibility in a way.
I think for me, just growing up, it's kind of ingrained in you to a certain extent, especially from being, where we're from. You just know so much, and even from school days, or from your parents, or from your grandparents, or from your great grandmother and your aunts. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of ingrained in you. So to me, it's really just being comfortable with sharing my story, and like even from a rap perspective, that's kind of just been a part of who I was. So it's not something that I feel like is, kind of like I have to do this. It's kind of something that's already in me, and a part of that is just the curiosity of where my people, their story. Like I was talking to my father today about we were just talking about the Bazits and just how he grew up going to the Bazits, and he was talking about how there was a discount store at the bottom of the Bazits, and I'm like, man, there's so much new information. So for me, it's just like it's fun for me to understand what Birmingham was, understand what the South was, and understand stories that are different from mine, because I think it shapes a perspective of my creativity and where I want to go with my creativity.
Right. I think I have a question from the floor. So as you stand up, I'm just asking you to say your name and answer a question as you wish.
Hi, my name is Monique, And my question is, well, since I've been listening to a lot of poetry during this month, I've noticed a lot of activist-based poetry deals with, of course, things that are happening now. But my question is, how do you think something like Afrofuturism, or like something that expands the idea of Blackness and humanity, how do you think those ideas fit into your work as artists?
When I saw Dr. Davis come, Angela Davis, and she was speaking a lot about internationalism and speaking as being an artist from the South and in Birmingham, sometimes the propensity is to start thinking beyond, not beyond even the boundaries of your county, or let alone your city. And I always tell another artist, consider we have a whole globe, there's a whole globe, a whole planet we live on. And so that affects how I create, in the sense that I think of multiculturalism when I create, even though I'm a Black, whatever I do is Black. I don't care what I'm doing, it's gonna be Black. So I think in terms of multiculturalism, but also embracing ideas from other places that keeps me open as an artist, you know, whether it be technology, a different language, different imagery, and just continue to grow on a larger platform as an artist.
Right, and I like to speak to that as well. I think so often my art serves as a point of healing. And so when you ask about how does art merge into the idea of in the future, I think for me, I would say it's a form of like preventative healing. So being able to have people who come after me in my circumstance read that and say, this is, someone had the forethought to give you advice on this, on love, on racism, on breakup, or something like that. And I feel like that speaks to the future. And when it comes to, as far as, I can't remember what you said, but promoting Blackness in the future, I think some art is permanent. And I mean that by saying the art that you give, and the art that you give that speaks to Blackness and things like that will be a point of history. And you can never always get it right. So sometimes you'll look back and say, well, you know, that Black history does not apply to the history that applies today. And sometimes, like, you can read poems today that are very applicable to the lives of Black Americans and everyone and things like that. So I think when it comes to the future, write your truth, and it might be true now, and it will be true now, but it might not be true later. So. Oh, okay, next question. So, and that leads into this one. How does your art serve as a form of activism?
I know I can start with this one. I feel that when we started the Kickback, we tried a lot of going to different venues, talking to people, telling them what we do. But once we told them like what music we were performing mainly, they were just, we don't want to do it. So it kind of led me to work with like more Black-owned venues in Birmingham, because they were more, I guess they accepted what we were doing and weren't like, no, we don't want that in here, or always having to say, we're gonna have X amount of dollars for security will be needed for this day. I'm like, I know that our crowd won't ever do anything wrong. I know that for a fact. So I guess just being in those situations just showed me that we needed to focus on our Black-owned businesses in Birmingham and do more with those people here, because they know our art, respect our art, are a part of it.
I know for me, as a youth, I can say that me doing poetry and even a little bit of film, I know I reach out a lot to my crowd and my age, so I can tell them that, hey, it's okay for you to, you know, let your thoughts out in this way, even though I know a lot of people, they're more or less leaning towards social media nowadays, but sometimes I feel like you have to actually get it out into real people and not online. So I just let them know through my poetry and even through film, like, hey, this is something that you can do and you will be able to do in the future.
I think short for me is just looking within, like, how can I do more? Like I said, like, through creativity, you can speak your truths, but you know, speaking is one thing, and acting and walking and doing is another thing. So for me, it's always like, what more can I do to, help, especially my community, to help young people, who I definitely have a passion for. Is really finding ways and people to help me do more within, within being not quite just saying an activist, but we're just walking, talking the talk and walking the walk.
When I hear the term activism, I think you have to have your own definition of what that is in a sense, because sometimes we think of a platform and numbers and how many people you're impacting. And I think about a friend of mine, an artist. He said someone recently, he's a choreographer, and someone recently asked him, well, are you an active artist, or what's your political position? He said, being an artist is a political statement in of itself because you're not doing the norm. So I think just being an artist, and I think about something I had in my own meditation time. Sometimes people, humans, we are very moved by things we can measure, and that makes us feel good and in control. So I helped 100 people versus, oh, I helped one old lady across the street, or I picked up a piece of trash off the floor, off the ground. And just thinking about your space, because sometimes we get so caught up in artists, I think we have propensity towards ego. Look at how much I did versus just the quality of what you do every day. So it could be one small thing that you do consistently, just maybe helping one person here and there, and that's a form of activism. And being an artist, being free in what you do and loving it and being honest, that's a form of activism. And when I use my platform, like last week, I was feeding some people at my church, and a lot of people know my business name, and I was like, you know what? I can just use the platform of my artwork, put a shout out, hey, some people come help me feed those in need, and people showed up. So that's a form of activism. It doesn't have to be, I think, this idea that we've been kind of misled with. It can be very small.